Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. Well, welcome in, everybody, to the Flagstick Podcast with myself, Jeff Potter, and Scott McLeod. Flagstick Podcast is, of course, brought to you this week by Canadian Pro Shop Online. Got the gift of golf that everyone is talking about. The new Clubhouse Golf Box at Canadian Pro Shop Online. An amazing gift for the golfer in your life, loaded with amazing products from top brands. Simply choose the Essential or the Premium box. Choose your ship date, and they fill the box with great products and ship it right to you or to your lucky gift recipient. Gift giving made easy. Get yours and browse for other great gifts while you're there at Canadian Pro Shop Online. Still love that whole concept.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just a lot easier.
You think?
Yeah.
This time of year, everything needs to be easier. By the way, before we get going here, just want to make sure everybody's following us across all social media networks: Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, Threads. Subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and we do encourage you, as always, to hit us up on YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell, and make sure you never miss a single episode. Contest ongoing right now on flagstick.com. Running out of time soon. Very soon.
Tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow, actually. Well, as we record here on a Thursday, December the 8th, that contest will be gone.
Yeah. So
but another one will replace it at some point or another very soon. Yeah. And we'll just keep rolling with this all during the off season. But Cleveland RTX6 wedge is on the line. All you got to do is subscribe to our newsletter, which is a great idea anyway, and you're in the draw.
You got it.
I love that. I love giving stuff away. I love getting free stuff too, but I love giving free stuff away when I can. I love to give it away, and people like to get it.
I just had a delivery, actually.
You had a delivery some
few
free
minutes
stuff?
ago. Well, sort of. It's for testing. It's some prototype golf balls to do some testing. So it's not more or less for me. You know, they have test on the side. It's not like I'm going out to play these things. It's the case of let's see what they're like from a feedback standpoint, and then maybe we'll drop a bit of information for our community on our channels about them. So yeah,
why not? Why not?
Exactly. What's going on today?
Lots of stuff going on. I'm not too sure what our weather is going to be doing or not doing lately. Had a nice little drive back from Pembroke on Sunday night after a hockey tournament. Man, that was
little white knuckler.
That was hair raising at its best. It really was. I can never figure out why it is necessary when the visibility is zero. Yeah. The roads aren't plowed. There's 2 ruts in the snow on the Highway 17 coming back from Pembroke, and people insist on passing.
Oh yeah.
I'm doing maybe 60, 65, and even at that, I'm kind of like leery about how fast I'm going, and people are literally zipping by.
I know.
Passing, and I don't get it. I just don't. I don't understand. Now, I did have to laugh. One guy zipped by me. I think he was driving a Toyota Matrix.
Oh, no.
He had winter tires on it, so I'm sure that he thought that made him invincible.
Of course.
And he whipped by me, and I swear 15 minutes later, right before I got to Cobden, I look over, and here's this guy in the ditch. And I just, I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, I know.
The snicker actually came out, and then I thought, well, maybe the guy's hurt, and maybe I shouldn't snicker, but dumb.
You know what? Yeah, I can remember many years and many times, driving up to Ottawa. Maybe it was wintertime or whatever. Definitely was wintertime, and that exact same situation. And I can remember distinctly the one time the guy flying by me, and I thought, that's not very good. Like, dude, you can see far ahead. And there was actually a pullover for an accident. So OPP was guarding a vehicle up ahead. Not hard to see. You can see it well in advance. This guy probably got within like 400 meters of it in the left lane when he realized it was there. Obviously hit the brake, started skidding, and ended up in the guardrail on the right side or whatever. And I'm just like, man, you just got to have some awareness, especially in the wintertime. just paying attention a little bit more. And yeah, it's
Well,
just scary.
I tell my son Brandon, tell them both, Nolan and
Yeah,
Brandon, but I tell Brandon because he's a new G2 and it's right in the winter. So, when he's driving back and forth to school and stuff, I say in this weather, I don't mind. I don't care if you're driving on snow-covered roads, and I don't mind if you're driving in the snow. You have to learn how to do this stuff anyway. You can't just drive only when the weather's great.
right.
But
Canada.
um, you have to understand that it's not like this crazy revelation of how to drive when the weather's not that great. When it gets cold out, even if the roads are clear, because it's warm during the day, they get a little moisture on, little water, and when it gets cold, that freezes. So
Yeah,
the first thing you do when you leave the house in the morning as you're driving down the driveway is before you get to the end of our
test them
street,
out.
start testing the brakes.
You got it.
Get it up to like 30 and hit the brakes and see if it skids and how much it skids. So then when you get to the stop sign, you're slowing down well before the stop sign. You're driving to school and there's cars. Make sure that there's 8 lengths of cars in front of you.
Are you saying friction matters?
Friction does matter. No, I mean I have a Jeep Cherokee and it, but I don't have winter tires on the Jeep. I have all terrain tires. I have very, very brand new, all very good tread, but they're
Sure.
not winter tires, so they're not even as good as the tires are on my wife's car because hers are winter tires.
Yeah.
But I have 4-wheel drive, so that helps a little bit with the steering, but it doesn't help with the skidding.
Nope. Not one bit.
Even winter tires don't help a ton with the skidding, but they're softer, so they do grip and the friction and all that. Anyway, why are we having a discussion about
I don't know.
friction and winter tires when we're supposed to be talking about golf? I am
Right,
so sorry, people. I'm so sorry, all the people listening. This is terrible. We got a great show, and first we're going to talk about tires, and then we're going to get into some golf stuff. The new golf ball testing standards, some Canadian success on the LPGA Q School, trio of Canadians playing at the Grant Thornton Invitational this week. And on the back nine, we're going to be joined by a passionate local amateur golfer on a quest to play a lot of golf. So let's get to the front nine, presented by Metcalf Golf Club. Natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Golf season may be over, but there's not a bad time to start planning for next season right now. Get your membership. Get your name on some of those league lists. Purchase game packs. Get yourself ready to go for next season and hit the first tee with some money, extra money in your pocket. Visit metcalfgolf.com to shop now and get something for the golfer on your list.
Very good, Jeff. You got it back on the rails.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy. All right, Scott.
Yes.
3 Canadians at LPGA Q-Series. Let's talk about how everybody made out.
Yeah, it was good. I was up late last night doing a write-up for this. So if people want more details, is up on flagstick.com. But the LPGA Q-Series, the 6-round finale for the tour that obviously qualifies their players for 2024, wrapped up yesterday in Mobile, Alabama at the Crossings, which we played many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Canadian success. The 3 that went to Q School, there's 104 players that were in the field. And this, again, is the 3rd stage, basically. Maddie Szeryk and Alena Sharp were exempt into that stage, but Savannah Grewal had to play all the way from stage 1 all the way through, and all 3 of them secured status for 2024.
Nice.
Which
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
which is awesome, because they will join Brooke Henderson and Maudemie LeBlanc, who spent most of the year injured. So we'll have 5. They'll join them on the LPGA Tour next year. So we'll have 5 LPGA Tour players
Wonderful.
for next year, which, we'll get to it in a bit here when we talk about the Grant Thornton. But talking to Brooke yesterday, she's excited about having some other players join her. And a great point was made during a media call that we had yesterday, and the fact that this is the first player since Brooke has got to the LPGA Tour. This is the first Canadian player younger than her to join the tour, which, she's only 26, but she's been on tour. This is heading, finishing up 10 years. So this is exciting as far as seeing those levels of those players come up. And, Savannah, we've talked about a little bit before. She left school at Clemson. She was there as a grad student, just because she had to turn pro for the finals of the Q Series. She had tied for first at the first stage, tied for 6th at second stage. And man, she played well. Shot 18 under this week, tied for 10th. So she gets category 14 status, which is the highest that you could achieve from the Q School for finishing the top 20. 2020. She ended up playing all 3 stages at 41 under par.
Good
For the
Lord.
14 rounds. So yeah, played like a champ. Obviously very excited. Had a couple of quick text messages with her dad yesterday. Obviously he was excited as well, the whole family, and a chance to celebrate last night. And then a veteran, Alena Sharp, and Maddie Szeryk, who were a 102 and 145 respectively on the tour this year in the LPGA. Mind you, Alena played mostly on the Epson tour and did have a win there, so she was only a part-time player. They were both facing kind of being a little bit further down with status for 2024. Maddie would have been in category 16. Alena would have been in category 19, which wouldn't have got her a lot of starts. And they both ended up T38, finished in that top 45, and they'll get category 15 status. So good for them. And Alena, 68 on the final day, to make the mark. And it was just, I think she ended up 9 under. 8 was the mark to get in there. But yeah, she had to shoot that 68 on the final day. So, great. A lot of pressure there. So
that's pretty awesome. And the Grant Thornton Invitational starts this week, actually tomorrow, as we record this in Naples. Corey Connors and Brooke Henderson teaming up together, a couple of Canadians. That's pretty awesome to see the two of them teaming up. It'll be interesting to see how they do this week. A lot of cool pairings in that too. I saw came out.
Yeah, I mean it's a 32 players, 16 in the field. It's the first combined LPGA PGA Tour event in, I don't know, like 24 years or something.
Remember
like
the
that.
Wendy's?
Yeah, well, they had the Wendy's. With
that was
the
a three
different levels. They had the old J.C. Penney Classic. These were these mixed events, and obviously they changed
J.C. Penney.
Yeah, they changed this Grant Thornton event over to this, and I was on a call yesterday with Corey and Brooke. They had a few. They met up with a few us Canadian media peeps virtually to talk about it. They're both very excited, obviously, to play with each other. Corey right away was like, as soon as he heard the format change, he was, even though Brooke hadn't committed yet, he had said, "Hey, I want to play with Brooke." So they put that together, and it's kind of a mutual admiration society with the two of them. They're excited to see how each other plays. They haven't really crossed paths since they played for Canada in Tokyo in 2021, and they actually, the last time they played as a team was in 2013. They played the Copas de las Americas in Doral, which Brooke would have been the number 1 amateur in the world then. Now Corey is 5 years older than Brooke, but they were both on Team Canada at that point when they teamed up with Augusta James and Albin Choi to win that event. So it's been 10 years since they've actually been on a team together. So it should be fun to watch, fun to follow. A lot of stuff going on there as far as that event. And as we said, they're excited to play with each other, see how their games sort of stack up. It's a chance to kind of work on some new equipment, maybe try a few things out here and there. Brooke does have a new driver in the bag this week. It should be good.
Cool.
Nick Taylor's also in that field as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nick Taylor is playing with the KPMG Women's Champion.
Yeah, Ronnie Yen. Yeah, and cool. They're actually all paired together on day one.
Of course, so
and the funny part about Ronnie Yen is like they were put together for this team. They were obviously put in separately. They didn't know each other, and they asked Nick Taylor, or they asked Ronnie Yen what she knows about Nick Taylor, and she's like, "Well, I know he can putt." So that was about it. But
there you go.
Yeah, should be a great field. 141 combined LPGA and PGA Tour victories among the players in the field, and Corey and Brooke count for 15 of those by themselves. So should be a decent squad.
Okay, all right.
Should be a decent squad. Starts Friday.
So here's the topic du jour.
Oh my God, topic.
This is
topic to dominate.
This is really kind of getting all of the discussion in the golf world right now. This
short of John Rahm stuff, rumors until we see any facts. But anyways, yes,
a lot of times where there's smoke, there's fire. But man, can you imagine though? Like, just on the John Rahm topic, like to think of everything that John Rahm had said early on when all of the whole live stuff started to come down. If in fact he does, yes, jump ship and do this thing, I mean, people change their minds, they change their
Sure.
opinions. You find
Yep.
out new information, and that dictates a lot of things. But it just, man,
Well, it'll definitely be a bit of a firestorm if it's certainly true. I just get tired, unfortunately, of it's rumor after rumor. Here's this number, here's this number, here this number, and I had to have a laugh today because Wall Street Journal published something, and it was the same thing. It was speculative. Oh, somebody familiar with the matter. It's like, okay, there's very few people that are actually familiar with the matter, and I thought it was funny that it was behind a paywall. I was able to see it just because I had some access to some Wall Street Journal articles, and it basically took three people to rewrite the same rumor. Is really what it was, and it was just like, come on, people. From a
well,
credibility standpoint, you know what? I'm not saying it's not true,
no,
but
but
I don't have any proof of that, so I'm not going to be the one repeating the same rumors over and over again. And
it's
it's not
also
up
the
and it's not up to John Rahm to deny every single rumor.
no, but it's not. It's the damage that can get done
Mm-hmm.
when things are written, when facts aren't
Yeah.
um like facts aren't clear.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue that I have. So
Which
anyway,
leads us exactly into the rollback stuff, because the same thing happened
yeah.
here. Golf Digest, published the fact that this ruling was probably going to be coming out this week, and I'll get to the details of it in a minute. We might have to split this up a little bit, but the problem is that even though even the ruling is out now, there's so many people disseminating information without reading the reports, without
Hmm.
reading the actual information, and the sky is falling. And the number of people that I've heard going, oh, we're going to be back to playing balata balls, or we're going to lose 40 yards, or it's just like, oh my god, they're just they're repeating all this stuff over and over
Hmm.
again without looking at the facts, which unfortunately becomes a bit of a problem. And I did tweet out a little bit of a chart for people to start to think about, but I also understand one thing. So we'll talk about what the distance standard is,
Yeah.
but okay. So let's start with that, just to give it some framework as far as the
Okay.
discussion. So basically, the RNA and the USGA, they've been studying this for multiple years now. They've had their distance insights reports. They're looking to basically draw a little bit of a line in the sand for the future, right? It's been 20 years since the testing standard has been updated, and the overall. And first off, people are shocked that golf balls have a standard, right? They've been actually producing in distance standards for golf balls since 1976. They had a testing standard that was different at that point. It was basically 109 miles an hour, certain conditions as far as hitting a golf ball. At that point, it could go 280. This now we're updated, the current one heading into this, and this is not going to take effect for amateurs until 2030 and for the pros until 2028. They're basically going from a standard where they would test at 120 miles an hour with a 10-degree launch angle and 2,500 spin, and the ball could go 320. They're keeping the 320 number, but they're making it a higher speed to get to that number, so effectively shortening the golf ball. The idea is that for most people, that's going to mean a change in the aerodynamics. So the testing now will happen at 125 miles an hour at a lower spin rate, 2,200, and a launch of 11, which is more reflective of modern times. But people have to remember, this is reflective of the pros and the top amateurs and how they hit the golf ball and how they play as far as the testing. The average amateur doesn't create that much speed, not that much spin, and so forth. So when we start to look at it, people all of a sudden were like, oh, everybody's going to lose 5.4%, which is basically what would be happening for the top end.
Hmm.
But they have to realize that as they work their way down and people have different speeds, launch conditions, whatever, it becomes less and less of what they will actually lose. And we post charts on our social media and all that stuff, and shared what the USGA and stuff did. The average player, because they don't create much speed, is not going to lose much at all. In fact, even the top players will lose speed, or will lose probably 30, equivalent to 30 to 45 feet is what it is
Hmm.
at the very top end. Once they get below, say, about a 5-iron, they're not going to see much difference at all. The average person is going to lose a few yards off their driver, but because their clubhead speeds are so low, they're not going to see much difference on the bottom side. Now, again, obviously they're doing this to talk about more about the future, because if they don't draw a line in the sand now, they're going to have to do something in the future. So thoughts? I mean, I'm sure everybody's got thoughts. Everybody's got opinions on it. Obviously, was discussion about bifurcation. There was about, now they're deciding basically they're going to have to do this rollback across the board for a number of reasons. But again, we can get into that. So that's my piece for now. You go at it. I want to hear what you've got to say.
Well, I'm mixed on this because I don't, as far as the game goes, for the vast majority of those of us that play golf, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not a scientist and I'm not a research and development technician, so I don't know the ins and outs of all of it. But what I do know is that for the vast majority of the golfers out there, I don't think that doing that what they're doing means anything. I mean, as far as drawing a line in the sand for the future, whatever, the vast majority of people that play golf are never going to hit the ball long enough to make golf courses obsolete because of the distance of the ball. So when you look at the percentage of golf, now let's just take, for instance, the main tours. Okay. How many? There's 250 PGA Tour members? Sure. Let's say there's another 250 on the Corn Ferry, and let's say there's another 200 on the LPGA Tour, and so on and so on and so on. If you take all the major tours, DP World Tour, Live, let's say there's 2,000 high elite level professional golfers. Right. Okay. So my thought on this is, why do we even care? Why does the industry even care about the 2,000? And how many golfers are there in the world? Sure. Like over 200,000? Yeah. And counting and counting?
We're millions, dude.
Okay, but you know what I mean? Yeah. What I'm saying is, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but when you look at the percentages, like, what is it? What is the tours, the professional golfers, and the high level?
It's probably 0.01%.
Yeah. So my point is, if they're so concerned about them making golf courses, like, and I agree, the further they can hit the ball, the harder it is for them to find golf courses for them to play on where professional golf can be competitive. But why do we care about those guys? Why don't we focus on, okay, well, let's develop each manufacturer. Okay, well, get to it. Explain to me the issues, because why can't we develop a tour specific ball that an amateur can play and buy? Like, I can buy blades, forged blades, and I can buy deep cavity irons, and I can buy a 420cc driver, and I can buy a 460cc driver.
Sure, but they're all conforming though.
But that's what I'm saying is, the golf ball, the tour golf ball, can be conforming for the tour player. That could be it can be two levels of golf ball. There's a tour ball that's used for professional golf, and there's a ball that is for everybody else. So
you're basically talking about bifurcation. So
absolutely, I don't see any reason why now. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, that when it comes right down to it, it's less than 5% distance lost. Well, 5% distance lost to some people, 5 yards is 5 yards in their mind. I mean, we're talking about perception.
Yeah, but talking about a driver going 15 feet less, and the thing is
that's my point. Is that
the average player doesn't maximize what they do anyway. So the thing is, though, is they have to have some standard, right? So, and here's the thing: I'm not saying the standard can be different. But the problem is, if it's different, then all of a sudden you're not playing the same ball as the pros. Everybody wants to play with the same baseball, the same basketball, whatever.
That's baloney. That's baloney.
No, it's not.
Okay, look at the 40-year-old guy. I don't care about the surveys. The 40-year-old guy that's out playing golf. Okay, look at your surveys are based on a small sample size of people, not everybody that plays. So when I do a survey, I'm going to survey 10,000 people. Well, 10,000 out of 2 million is not a valid a valid data form there. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. Okay,
I'm telling you that there can't be. Unfortunately, you have to have a standard. You can't have 2 million different standards.
Okay, so let's have a standard
because every person's going to be different,
right? So let's have a standard to ensure that we are looking after the vast minority as opposed to the vast majority.
Okay.
So why not leave the golf ball alone and just and stop making the golf courses so damn fast? I watched these PGA Tour events. I watched these guys hit the ball and have it roll out 75 yards.
Yeah, totally. That's a whole other discussion that we could get into. And there are going to be secondary discussions related to this, because if you look and read the actual Insights report and go through the ruling, they're obviously making mentions of forgiveness of driver and so forth, where this is where we might see a start to be a separation between what is done for the amateur and what is done for the pro, because basically it indicates that there's probably going to be a model local rule that they're looking at some point that could be for the tour player, that limits the tour player what they can do for a driver versus what the average player does, but still allowing the player to have the same golf ball. The other side of it is that if we go to a tour only golf balls, which are, these players are not paying for these golf balls. So if their cost all of a sudden is borne by them, but we also have to understand that we're not just talking about the pros. There's the high end top. And I'm going to lose more distance because I'm a higher club head speed, right? And again, I'm just trying to argue the point. So I'm not trying to say it's one way or the other, but I'm trying to get my head around everything. We have to also understand that although we're talking about the 0.001% of the professional golfers, the majority of players that are swinging at the high speeds as well, the greater number, to go back to your point, there are more amateurs in the world. Well, all those super high end amateurs, as far as speed of amateurs, those kids that are swinging 130 miles an hour that are right now are juniors, they're just only going to get faster, and they're amateurs. So that becomes a problem, not just for the pros, for the amateurs. So at some point they have to draw a line in the sand for the future, right? We're talking 2030 from now. Got nothing?
I don't know. I just don't. Maybe I just don't understand why, if they want to do this, why they can't. Yeah, and you don't need to be concerned about whether you're going to recoup the cost of developing the golf ball for the tour players or the elite amateurs. Just develop the golf ball, put it in the stores, and if people want to buy it, let them buy it. It's a tour ball. You want to buy a tour, you want to play what the pros are playing. If that seems to be, in your opinion, that seems to be something that people actually give a crap about, and I still doubt that they do, but I really, really, really don't think that the vast majority of golfers care whether they're playing the golf ball that Tiger Woods plays. They play the pinnacle friggin' whatever, the whatever ball gives them the most distance. That's the ball they want to play.
You just made the point. They want the more distance, wherever. Anyways,
but that's what makes the game more enjoyable for and it doesn't matter what we say about whether it's 5%, 4%, 10%, 15%. They don't care.
We're talking about one club. The average golfer that hits it 220 yards for a male and 160 yards for a female
is going to hit it 215.
Well, is going to see who hits it to. They're going to lose 15 feet. 15 feet that they could regain by getting 2 more miles in a club head speed.
Absolutely, Scott. But how many Joe average golf amateurs out there that aren't elite level hit it 300 off the tee?
They don't, but
every single one of them in their mind. That's my point. They all think they hit it further than they do. So they're going to think they hit it shorter because the ball is, it's just, to me, it's just,
well, the thing is though, they have to get into reality and not what is not the reality.
I think we should just go back to freaking using hickory shafted golf clubs and gutta percha balls. Look, and enough of it, and don't even mow the fairways anymore.
So, I mean, and I agree as far as the course conditions at tour level and stuff like that. We have to also remember too, we're talking about changes. Are people going to leave the game because of this? I mean, there are going to be some people, but it's going to be very few.
I mean, I doubt anybody's going to leave the game, but you're going to have a lot of people complaining for a while once it actually happens.
They're going to complain anyways, because everybody complains because they don't hit the golf ball the way they want. But let's look at even under the R&A conditions in 1990. All of a sudden, the British ball was illegal. Through the 70s and the 80s, a lot of people played the British ball versus the American ball. Even the pros would go over to St. Andrews and they would go over early to play the British ball because it went further. So there's already been a rollback for in that case, there was a rollback already as it was. There's always been a distance standard, but if we don't have any limitation, I think the issue here for a lot of people is that it's a backwards move versus a line in the sand as far as let's just leave it where it is now. And I will say that has been the feedback in most cases from a number of the golf ball companies of basically saying, okay, we're at a standard now. Why can't we just leave it at a standard? And sure, that could be valid as well. Right. And on the other side of it, the PGA Tour and so forth, they don't believe that the 125 mile an hour is realistically as the standard, that it maybe shouldn't go from 120 to 125. But again, we're talking about something that's 6 years in the future here. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then. So it's heavily nuanced. I just hope that, and it's not going to happen. There's just a little too much hysteria and not people digging in and seeing what the actual science is. And I can tell you, just by posting a distance chart and you look at like launch angles and stuff like that, a lot of people, the average golfer, or I wouldn't call the average golfer, because the average golfer doesn't care about this. They don't put in scores. They don't do whatever. They don't even know how far they hit the golf ball.
Nope.
Right. So we're still talking about a more avid golfer. A lot of those more avid golfers could probably get the 15 feet back with their wrench and make a one little adjustment.
and a little club fit.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things, but again, it's a lot of heavy reaction, just like the John Rahm stuff, or whatever, without digging into all the different nuances. And I'm not saying it's not complicated. I mean, everybody is saying that it is complicated, but they've got to have some testing standard. Again, some people think there was no testing standards before this for some reason. So, but you know what? But if you're an average person, you don't know that. I mean, you can talk about hockey in the essence of the NHL, but the NHL is not hockey; it's pro hockey, right? So the average person that goes for a skate doesn't care about the rules of the NHL if they're playing shinny on the pond.
You can put forward any major professional sport and talk about the changes that have been made and how the changes may have had the elite level player in mind,
right?
But those changes affect everybody down the line.
They do,
whether they're positive or negative changes. I mean, you were just talking on the weekend about hockey sticks and how the technology behind a hockey stick now allows the players to have more feel with the puck and to be able to shoot the puck harder. The problem is that the sticks are now more brittle. Right. And they break a lot easier. I mean, I watched kid after kid after kid on our team on the weekend break a stick, a $300 stick, break a stick with a warranty that lasts for 30 days. And I'm just thinking, every time someone breaks a stick, I'm just looking up in the stands going, does the parent have their head down? Because they're on their way to pick up another $300 stick that the kid's probably going to break 2 weeks later.
The dark side of technology, right? I mean, and that's the thing. If you're going to chase that, right, it becomes a bit of an issue. And for golf, look, half the people that we play with and we go and play, they don't have the latest clubs, they don't have the latest drivers, they don't have the latest golf balls, they haven't been to a fitting, they haven't gone through. And you know what, they're never going to hear about the overall distance standard. They're not going to care about it. They've never looked at a rule book. They don't care about a rule book. So yes, this is addressing a certain segment within the game, and people have to realize that it's a small segment. So where it's going to impact the game is not really as much as people think. It's a case of doing a few things for specific players. I get that totally 100%. But yeah, people just have to sort of calm down. Your buddies are still going to be your golf buddies. Your buddies are still going to be your golf buddies. You can still have your beer after the game. You're still going to be playing against each other. I had one guy freaking out because he's like, all the courses are going to have to be re-rated. Well, if you actually dig into the rating book and you understand what the differences are of, from a distance perspective, the rating differences come in chunks of anywhere from, depending on the level of the player and the length of the course, come in chunks of like 16 to 26, 30 yards in some cases, where before there's actually a change in rating. So again, you got to look at the details and the facts and not just, unfortunately, just repeat everything that you hear on the internet.
Well, here's the thing. And let this be the finishing point on this topic that is so
contentious,
lovely and intense. For your average player out there that plays whatever number of rounds of golf a year, not for your elite player, but for your average player out there that just tips it up with their buddies.
10, 15 rounds a year.
This new ruling, no matter what, you're still not going to hit it as far as you think.
Right.
And on that note, we got to take a break.
Sure.
And when we come back, Scott had a chance to sit down with a passionate local amateur golfer. Excuse me, cough coming. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Melvin Lee.
Yeah.
And he has a quest to play a lot of golf, but we're going to find out in the back nine after this quick break what that quest is all about. So stay with us. You're listening to the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. The Canadian Pro Shop Online has all the best gear for Canadian golfers. Amazing prices on all the top brands in one place. The latest drivers, irons, putters, and more. The Canadian Pro Shop Online is the best gear to help you play your best golf. Shop online today at CanadianProShopOnline.com. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Flagstick podcast with myself, Jeff Botter, and Scott McLeod. And if you missed the heated discussion about the golf ball rollback, you're just going to have, and you're just happening to start listening now, you might want to roll back your YouTube or your wherever you're listening to the podcast and play that little section again, because we got a little bit heated. Scott and I don't always agree. It's
a complicated topic.
It is a complicated topic, and everybody has opinions. And the goal of this particular podcast or this show is sometimes for Scott and I not to agree, and that leads to some pretty good podcast material. And if anybody wants to hear Scott and I argue, well, this is probably a good podcast to listen to do it, because we argued. But we're good now. We cheersed our mugs. We had our coffees. We chatted it out during the break, and we're good to go now. So we're good to go, of course, with the back nine presented by Celtic Golf Center, located 20 minutes from Ottawa in Kemptville. Celtic Golf Center's indoor golf at another level, featuring 5 state-of-the-art TrackMan simulators and 2 new Unicore simulators. With GS Pro, Celtic Golf Center can now offer you 10,000 golf course options to play, including many major courses and some with island greens and beautiful azaleas, in case you're wondering. Play rounds with friends, practice full swing analysis, and play golf games. Visit CelticGolfCenter.ca to learn more, to book your tee time. All right.
Yeah.
Up on the back nine, Scott had a chance to do a little interview with Dr. Melvin Lee. Yeah. And because that name doesn't sound familiar to anybody, maybe it won't. But Scott's going to explain who Dr. Melvin Lee is and why we did this interview and what this is all about.
Yeah, so I've been following Melvin for a while. Melvin is actually a dentist in the Ottawa area, a very avid golfer. And it's quite funny, actually, when you look on his Instagram. I make a reference to it in the interview, but he has all these pictures playing golf with different people, and he's always got a smile on his face and his thumbs up. And it was very obvious that he was a super avid golfer. And I know he's involved with curling and a number of other things, and I'd heard him on a couple other podcasts. And I thought, you know what, this is, short of obviously being a dentist, but he's a guy who comes from an interesting background. You'll hear that on the podcast. And it's just turned into a bit of a, he'll admit it, a bit of a golf nut. And so he made a little bit of a quest this year to try and play 150 rounds of golf and try to play on as many different golf courses as possible. And, he's sort of discovered himself along the way through golf, and for a kid from he was like, as he said, he was a kid from Korean immigrants that came to Canada who didn't have a lot of money. It's quite the journey to get to where he is now. And I admire him and respect him for how passionate he is, and he'll explain how passionate he is and about the game. And it's just fun. It's just we're talking about average golfers or amateur golfers. This is the epitome of a guy who's just passionate about the game. And I just thought it'd be a fun interview, just to sit down, have a chat with him, talk about some of his journeys, some of the courses that he played, why he got into the game, how he sort of went from being a terrible golfer, as he says, to a decent golfer, and how he continues to the game continues to bring joy into his life.
Beautiful. And on that note, here's our Scott McLeod's interview with Dr. Melvin Lee.
All right, got a special guest today on the podcast, Dr. Melvin Lee. A lot of people probably won't know who you are. We'll get to that in a moment. But if they do follow you on Instagram, they'll see lots of cool photos of you playing all sorts of golf courses all over the place, usually with a thumb up and a big smiling face and maybe a guest or two, which is great to see. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's great to be here.
Well, you know what? It's always fun to talk to real golfers, and that's really one of the things that it really is a joy for us. I mean, a lot of people get caught up in the the professional world and watching that all the time, and I think sometimes people get tired of that a little bit. Maybe talking about just money, 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 money. But in this case, you know what? Golfers are golfers all over the place. They have the sort of the same goals. They love to go out and play with people, play new golf courses. And I think you're a true example of that, which I think is a fun aspect and partly why we have you on the show today. So why don't we tell people a little bit about your golf journey and how, first off, who you are, and then how you got into golf. And we should mention that you live in Ottawa, Ontario. So people that follow this podcast, we have them from all over the place. We actually have downloads, I think, in 80 countries now. So
Wow.
that is national capital for Canada for people that are listening. And, this is Dr. Melvin Lee.
Yes. So, yes, as you said, I'm a dentist in the Ottawa area. So for all of your listeners in the Ottawa-Gatineau region who are possibly looking for a new dentist, I am always taking new patients.
Awesome.
In terms of my golf story, so I am the son of Korean immigrants.
Okay.
They came to Canada in the early 70s. We were living in Calgary when I first took up golf at the age of 12. Now, the thing is, my background wasn't like probably most of your listeners. We weren't that well-to-do.
Sure.
We didn't have that much money. It was an invitation by the Calgary Korean Businessmen's Association to members who are interested in the sport to just have a place for the guys to hang out on the weekend.
Okay.
So my father, there were a few of the men who actually brought their sons. And so me and some of my friends from church, we actually tagged along with our dads. But in me and my dad's case, we didn't have money for new equipment. We didn't have money for even lessons. So we just went in seriously, I don't think we even went to the driving range before we hit the ball.
Do you remember what golf course it was?
There's a series of municipal courses in Calgary. So McCall Lake.
Yep, of course.
Yep. Calgary. Yeah. But yeah, that's how I started and kind of just went along like that for, well, you could argue 25 years.
Okay, so it wasn't like it stuck right away and you said, man, I have to do this all the time. It was
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I've done so many sports, from my
I know
childhood.
You're heavily involved with curling and
Yes,
curling,
international curling consultant too. But golf, I still believe, is the most difficult sport to do. There's just so many moving parts, the body mechanics, and even within the game itself, from driver to putter and then everything in between. It's different. There's a variety in golf that you don't see in other sports. And part because of peer pressure, but part because I did enjoy the nature aspect of the game, like walking park-like fairways and greens. And I stuck with it, but I golfed crappily. I don't know if that's the word.
I love that word.
I'm not joking you. For 25 years, my goal was could I break 90? And for a long time, it was even, could I break 100? Could I get to double digits?
That's pretty common.
It is, but for 25 years, Scott, frustrating, right? When you have a bit of, I'm a dentist, you have this perfectionist part of me, right, that wants to, that anticipates you tee up on a par 3 and you expect a hole in one, right? It's like this type of thinking. And so I did that. I muddled around for 25 years, got married, and then I did enjoy golf. So I wanted my wife to play along with me. So to be honest with you, the first formal series, I had one-off lessons, but first formal series of golf lessons I took in my 25th year of golf at Kevin at his school. So he had semi-private lessons. And my approach was, I wasn't really going for myself. I thought, unbeknownst to me, that I thought my game was pretty good and my swing was pretty good. So I was there more for moral support for my wife.
Sure.
Kevin brings her up to the tee box, and he does the down the line and face on video, and then like goes and analyzes short analysis of my wife's swing. My wife's not that athletic, so there were many points that he had to cover. And then he said to me, "Okay, Melvin, now let's see, it's your turn." So like I said, I went up with a bit of swagger, wanted to show up for my wife. Okay, honey, this is how you hit a golf ball. I'm not joking you, Scott. I think I swung twice, maybe 3 times. Kevin said, "Stop. You need to unlearn everything you currently know about your golf swing. Everything about your address, your setup, everything is wrong. I don't know who taught you, and I don't know where you learned from, but you need to unlearn everything." And he told me this: it's going to be more difficult to teach you because you have like 20 plus years of bad habits than it is to teach your wife.
Yeah, you're not a blank slate, right?
Yeah. It was one of my biggest humble pie eating moments of my life, Scott. But in terms of me really enjoying, and I don't, this podcast interview wasn't meant to be an endorsement or a 30-minute commercial for Kevin Hayne, but I have to attribute credit to him as to how I went from enjoying golf to really having a passion, and I would even call it an addiction for golf. I think one of his mottos is "better golf is more fun," right? And it is.
Yeah.
It is. And so after that series of semi-private lessons, I think that first season, my handicap went down 10 strokes. And currently I am on Golf Canada. I think I flutter between an 11 or 12 handicap. So
that's amazing. I mean, that's a big endorsement for getting some golf education, which
absolutely,
as you said, a lot of people make an assumption that they know a lot, but you don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly. And so anybody, I try to have them prevent them from going through the same experience I do. I always emphasize, okay, if you want to get serious into golf, you must take lessons.
Yeah, for sure. So how did that progress? I mean, as you said, your game got better. When did you come to Ottawa, and when did you start to play a lot more?
So I moved to Ottawa from Winnipeg in 2009, and have been having my dental practice here ever since. But in terms of the pivotal, like picking golf up a gear, like up a notch, it was that series of lessons with Kevin. I believe it was 2012 or 2013. And then in terms of getting involved with Andy Verhathi and Club EG, right? And so getting myself into some type of network membership to play more often. In terms of destination golf, that for me, the first actual bona fide experience was 2016. My father was celebrating his 60th birthday. So in conjunction with a dental course down in Scottsdale, we went down. So I wrote it off as a business expense. But Scott, the real reason, let's be honest, I don't know if you've been to Scottsdale. It was a golf vacation. It was a golf vacation.
Yeah. And we'll hope the CRA is not listening.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever.
7 years now. You should be.
The statute of limitations, right?
Yeah.
What I'd done, and I wasn't a big fan of tournament golf. Like I followed the majors at that time, but nothing other than the majors I wasn't too aware about. But I did know about the
Waste Management.
It's open, right?
Right.
The timing of my course was same week as that tournament.
Oh, darn.
So we made a tee time. I'm not joking you. 2 days after the final round.
Nice.
It's open. The stadium on 16 was still up. Because the condition was in such mint PGA Tour condition, we could not choose. We had to go out with caddies so that we wouldn't hack up the course or whatever.
Sure.
But Scott, that was really, really cool. And to golf in a destination like that, at a golf course like that, right after a PGA Tour event, that did it for me. So since 2016, I've I always take at least one destination golf vacation trip per year.
Nice. Where have you gone? Where's some examples before we get to
Well,
your other
I mean,
other
Kevin, because as you know, Kevin, uh, is a walking billboard for Cabot. So I went there shortly after COVID. I believe it was 2021. Cabot Cliffs, Cabot Links. Probably that is the best golf
Yeah, it's
course.
okay. It's okay. I was there about a month. I was there just over a month ago. So yeah.
Was
I
that
was
in
there.
conjunction with the RBC Scramble that you were there for? Or?
I was there just the days before, but I was actually there at Cabot Links the day it opened. So yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
go back a fair bit as far as that. So I mean, great destination there for sure. And and if you can't be inspired by hanging out at Cabot property, then you probably don't have a pulse, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it was that was the dream trip of a lifetime for me so far. I've been to PEI a couple of times, and actually this past summer it was with the I don't know if you're into curling, but Brad Gushu's former second, Brett Gallant,
Of course.
his father Peter Gallant.
Yep.
His father Peter Gallant is close friends with me because of my link with
my family's all from PEI, so I know exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
You know about them.
Oh yeah.
If you don't mind, I've got a story to tell you about him. When I went out, he invited me out to his seaside cottage to stay for the golf trip. And we played Crowbush, Thunderwave, and Green Gables when I was out there. The first night when I got, he's got this rustic wood cabin, Peter and his wife Leanne doing. Above the eating area in this small cabin, there were these 9 beer steins that looked identical to each other. Okay. And I knew about Peter. I know he likes beer. I said to him, Peter, that's I know you love beer, but like 9 beer steins all the same. That's a little bit excessive, no? He just gave me a smile. He's a very humble guy, right? Just gave me a smile. And then Leanne turned to me and was like, you don't know what those are, Melvin? I'm like, they're beer steins, right? Those are PEI Briar tankards.
Yeah.
That Peter has won.
Yeah.
Throughout the years. 9-time champion.
Yeah. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. They were probably having a good laugh at your expense. That's for sure.
Exactly. But I mean, the thing, I don't know if many curling fans don't know, Peter is his scratch golfer.
Yeah.
And it was a good trip.
As we know, curling and golf pretty much go hand in hand. We have a lot of crossover between the two sports for sure. I mean, a lot of clubs are obviously tied that way. A lot of golf professionals that are curling pros as well, or have been part of big teams and world championship teams as well. So Jennifer Jones is actually I'm doing some treatment for her. Her husband Brent Lang was a golf pro. Right. Yes. So that's as one example, right? So yeah, for sure. So where are you a member now? And then we'll start to get into how that ties into maybe some of your journey especially this last year. Yeah. So I'm a member of ClubLink. I've been a member with them for the past, I think this is going to my 5th or 4th year. I can't remember. Okay. But my home club is Haute Plaine in Gatineau. I know people remark about the number of rounds I've done this year, and it's like some crazy feat and blah, blah, blah. I hate to break this to you, Scott. The reason I am doing this is because I'm cheap. So you're the nightmare member because you're making use of the membership more than 100%. I'm like that guy in Mandarin that eats goes up like 10 times. It's a net loss. It's nice to see you admit it. That's good. I appreciate the honesty for sure. I mean, we have a lot of, we know a lot of players. We come across a lot of players during a season, and I hear about a remarkable number of rounds. People playing 200, 250. I know somebody in my own course that does that. But the difference is, in most cases, is that a lot of them are just playing their home club, right, and doing that, which is a little bit different than what you've been doing this past year. I mean, because with ClubLink, right? Because I think the actual number of properties is somewhere around 40. Some of these properties have 36 holes or 27 holes. So, I mean,
You count the actual number of courses,
Yeah.
and then you have 9 par 3 courses, and somewhere around 50. But my point being, with the network being spread out of Toronto, Ottawa, Mont-Tremblant, Montreal, Florida, right? It is a great variety of courses that members can gain access to. And so that helped, bump that number up as high as it went this year. I also, my family lives in Aurora.
Okay.
Just north of.
So very central to a lot of their other properties.
Exactly. Right? And my dental clinic is here in Ottawa. So the fact that I'm home most weekends, right, also, allowed me to play a greater variety of courses, and also greater number of times.
So before we get to it and talk about maybe some of the courses that you played and so forth, was this a conscious thing where at the start of the year you said, I'm going to play X number of rounds, or I'm just going to play a lot more golf courses, or was this something that sort of happened more organically?
A bit of both. Like, I am a bit of a competitive guy, even with myself. So I figured the previous quote unquote record that I'd done in years past was somewhere between 120 and 130.
Well,
but
okay.
Unlike what I did this year, I didn't actually consciously count. And that previous year, I didn't put all of my rounds into Golf Canada for my handicap tracker. So I said, okay, from the start of the season, I'm going to, we're going to try to shoot for my low maximum was 130. I was going to do 130 for sure. Once that was exceeded, it's like, okay, well.
But when do you see that? Like June or whatever?
Yes. I think it was September.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So it wasn't too bad. I don't think anybody's going to have any sympathy for how many rounds that you played. That's yeah. What were kind of the standout moments? So first, how many rounds did you get to so far? Because we still have a month left in the year.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my Golf Canada app as I'm talking to you.
Okay.
It's just loading up.
This is the first for this show.
Golf Canada has me at 144, but
okay,
I actually think the real number is probably 146, 147. My parents are a member of a golf course that is not rated on the Golf Canada system, just because it's one of these, executive par 3, par 4 type of courses. So Golf Canada officially 144, but realistically speaking, including those I'm more.
So how are you going to change that? You've got 4 weeks here to get to that 150 mark. Are you going to try to hit it?
So next week, I'm going down to Atlantic City, and we've got me and my friend. He's a fellow member at Haute Plaine. We're going to drive down, and we've got 2 rounds booked right now. Yep. Twisted Dune, and it's the home of the ShopRite Classic for the LPGA.
Seaview, which is the Stockton Seaview. They're both great golf courses. They have 2 courses there, and Twisted Dune you'll love too. So great golf courses. So yeah.
So I mean, my style when I'm on these vacations, like I want to do 2 rounds in a day. Like one trip I did out to PEI with my golf buds a few years back, we did 8 rounds in 4 days, no problem.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'd like to get 3 done.
You should be able to there. I mean, sneak in an extra, maybe go across the road and play the second course at Seaview, or down the street and play Atlantic City Country Club, which is a great golf course.
There you go.
You shouldn't have any issue doing that. So.
But I know just before we started the podcast, you gave me a couple other recommendations of courses that are still open. So, even if you go by the 144 number, I think 150 on Golf Canada is going to be achievable by the end of the year.
Nice.
Yes.
So highlights. Obviously, you love your home course, but you probably got out to play some venues this year that maybe you hadn't seen before, that you desired to play. Yes. Give us some highlights of the year. Maybe some of the things that you saw. Did you have any great moments? People that you met. I may have saw a couple of people on your Instagram that you ran into and were shocked to run into and on the golf course. But run it by me.
So. The golf story of Melvin Lee is truly one of futility for the most part. I scored my first eagle.
Oh, nice.
it was D-Day, actually, June the 6th. On the 18th hole of the Predator course at Greyhawk. I was 58 yards. I remember this, 58 yards out, and it put it in with my 58. I hold out with my 58 degree.
Great symmetry there.
Yes. 2 months later, actually, sorry, it was about almost 3 months later, I hold out again at the same course, but on the 16th par 5, from 105 yards out.
With a 105 degree wedge?
Yeah. Yeah. But that one was definitely a bit more. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Both those shots, you need a bit of luck for the ball to go in. Yeah. So that was, in terms of golf achievement, something that was special. I scored my first ever even par or better round of 9 at National Pines.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, which is not easy to do. Those greens are pretty tough. So
yeah. And what was remarkable about that was it was the first time ever that I'd actually gone birdie, like a birdie Tuesday, I guess, right? I don't know.
Turkey, a little turkey.
Yeah. There you go. So that happened. In terms of golf courses, I mean, other than the trip out to the Maritimes where I went to, so I played Cabot Cliffs and those 3 that I mentioned in PEI. There weren't others that really stood out. It was just courses throughout the ClubLink network. I gained a greater appreciation for Smuggler's Glen. Mm-hmm. That course is beautiful layout.
Yeah, we host a tournament there annually, and
the turf maintenance there, Scott, is always good.
Yeah, Jason Boyce does an incredible job there.
Yes. So I really believe that is, for me, my favorite course in the Eastern Ontario area. It's just nice. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. In terms of some of the higher ranking courses on the ClubLink network, so played Greystone earlier this year.
Another tough one for putting. You pick the challenges for putting.
But you know this, Scott, right? Like the picturesque, the beautiful courses are the ones that are the bleeping difficult courses, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
So with Greystone, for me, I feel like I haven't conquered a course at my skill level until I've broken 90 there.
Okay.
And I've yet to do so at Greystone. I think
So you just keep going back for more punishment. Is that
more punishment?
Saying?
Yeah.
All right.
Masochist. I'm trying to think of other standout courses this year. One thing that was interesting was in the Belleville area. So that's now become a favorite golf spot for me. I participated, and I will be participating in the RBC Scramble again. We had a bit of blowout at our tournament at the Bay of Quinte.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know if you know this, but they're actually changing over I think their entire course. I think
so they'll have 27 holes open next year, and then there'll be 36 in 2025.
So they opened that one part of the new 9 that they opened at. We played, I think, 4 or 5 of those holes at that time. That's very interesting what the makeover that course is going through. But the one course there that I want to give some love to is Timber Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've gone and played that course several times over the past few years. Most recently, that was one of the only courses open in when was it, early November, late October.
Yeah, the team there tries to keep it open. Jeremy Sizer does a great job on the grounds crew, and Nolan Walsh is the head pro there. And our history with Flagstick goes back a long way there. I actually walked the property with Stephen Ward when he was doing the original design in the middle of winter. And got to see the center lines and everything cut and the whole deal back there. So that's going back 23 years now. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. But great property, and certainly underrated for sure.
But the thing is, I think that I don't know if they've come under new management, but I noticed the one thing on my last, literally the late season, late fall visit, the bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
They're changing over the bunkers. It like white sand that you'd expect at a resort course.
Yeah,
they're placing in there. So things are looking really good. And then turf maintenance for that time of year again was very, very good.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff there socially too as well.
Yes. In terms of courses outside of the ClubLink network, I've developed a bit of a relationship with Deer Creek
Oh,
in
okay. Yep.
Ajax. Yeah, that's another course I've yet to conquer, and it's always at my number. But again, I guess the same way you kind of pick me up on social media, they have too, and so I've done promotional videos and promotional photo shoots.
Are you doing wedding shoots now for them? I mean, obviously
exactly.
the
Oh my gosh,
clubhouse is super busy there. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like I kid you not. There was one time I was there, they had 3 weddings going on same time.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy,
yeah.
right?
Massive clubhouse, 90,000 square feet, I believe.
Yeah. It looks like a castle. But that course is like, I know you have a wider range of experience than I do, but public course wise, I would rate that as the best course I've played. Public course in the GTA area.
Nice.
Like it's top shelf.
Yeah, it's fun stuff there. So so for anybody that's kind of doing a quest like this, recommendations, thoughts as far as how to go about it, maybe a little bit. Any hot tips?
I'll just tell you what I did. Like, and I don't know if some people have this luxury to do this. I mean, owning my own business and my own clinic. So what I would do is literally my last patient of the day, whatever it was, 3:30, 4 o'clock. I have my golf bag, golf shoes, golf equipment, like everything. I actually would change into my golf attire at my clinic. Head straight, because especially when you're, early spring, late fall, you've only got hours of daylight. Forget the driving range, forget the putting green. I'm just booting it to the first tee. And so my thing is I try to finish 18 every time I go out to play. So that I would do, Scott, Monday to Friday.
Wow.
So that would account for 5 rounds a week. On the weekends, I would try to do at least 3. So of the Saturday and the Sunday, one of those 2 days would be a 36-hole day. Yeah.
Crazy. Wow.
And so, I mean, like at that number, when you're going, like even if you say 7, right? Times that by like, I'd say, we can say that we have a 5-month.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the core of the season.
Right?
Yeah.
So you go.
That's 20 weeks.
7,
right there.
That's
140. Yeah.
So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We definitely want to catch up with you again and see how your quest is going. Where can people follow your progress? I know I follow you on Instagram, but other people probably want to follow you as well.
I appreciate the plug. So it's my Instagram handle is golfer dentist.
Shocking.
Yeah. And I looked at my pictures and posts. I was like, okay, you know what? There's a lot of golf, but not so much dentists. So
that's fine.
Teeth, maybe, But I'm there on Instagram. That's where I do. That's my main. I see social media site. I also do have a Facebook page as well. That's just under my name, Melvin Lee. Okay. Those that are more Facebook friendly. But,
awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and good luck with your journey. And hey, you know what? Maybe next year we can get a game. How's that?
You're on, man. Come to Old Plain.
Okay. Sounds good. Or you can come down and see me at Smuggler.
Yeah, that sounds good too. I like it.
Just down the road. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Wow. I like it. I like it. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff, like we said on last week's podcast, that's the kind of stuff that we used to do in the magazine, in the print version of Flagstick magazine a lot, was where we would find interesting people. And Joe McLean did a lot of these interviews. You just find interesting people and you'd sit down and do an interview with them, talk to them about, and there were interesting things that they did in golf, and they weren't necessarily things that changed the landscape of the golf industry. They were just things that you find people that do stuff like this. I think that's awesome to do that kind of thing,
I think there's just so many stories in the game, and I think that gets lost, and so many people have a fixation on just the pros. And as we talked about on the front side, I mean, we have 5 LPGA Tour players and 8 PGA Tour players in Canada. That's 13 people out of 40 million. And if we break down as far as the golfers, there's almost 6 million people that play golf in some fashion here in Canada. So that means there's a lot of stories out there. So I'm looking forward to maybe taking the time out to dip into this market a little bit more and talk to more of those players, not only in this region, but across the province, across the country. And I think people will find their stories just as interesting as maybe, some of the top players that they admire who have already been interviewed 4,000 times and everybody's already heard everything from them at this point. But yeah, it was fun. And thanks, Melvin, for that. And I'm looking forward to possibly getting a game in with Melvin next year.
Now we'll ask him which course around here he hasn't played, and we'll hook that up.
All right. Sounds good.
That'll be 151.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, another great show, Mr. Scott McLeod. Really enjoyed that. Want to obviously thank our sponsors. Sponsors this week: Metcalf Golf Club, Celtic Golf Center, and of course our wonderful presenting sponsor, Canadian Pro Shop Online, who has introduced to everybody the Clubhouse Golf Box, an amazing gift for the golfer in your life, just in time for the holiday season. Loaded with amazing products from top brands. Simply choose the essential or the premium box, choose the ship date, and they look after everything else. They pack it and they ship it right to you or your lucky recipient. It's gift giving made easy. Get yours and browse for other great gift ideas at CanadianProShopOnline.com. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Flagstick Podcast, watching it or listening to it. Be sure to follow us across all social media networks. As always, Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, Threads. Subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch these two wonderful faces and the people that we interview on YouTube whenever you like. Click the notification bell, like us, make sure you never miss a single episode. Make sure you head over to flagstick.com for the amazing content that we do publish there every single day. And last chance, subscribe to Flagstick Digest newsletter. Not only will you be getting amazing content delivered to your inbox, you'll also have your name inserted into a draw that we're going to give away a Cleveland RTX 6 wedge.
Yep.
And one lucky
and future draws.
Yeah, there's going to be lots. I'm telling you, keep coming back. Subscribe to the newsletter. Sign up for whatever draws we put up there.
Yeah.
We're trying to give stuff away. We love you. All right. Well, on that note, as always, we do appreciate you tuning in. But until next week, I am Jeff Botter.
I'm Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for the stick.